You're welcome back. This is Newsfile. It's your most authoritative news analysis show. We're coming to you from the Multi-TV studios here in Kokomlemle in Accra. This is your Joy News channel. We are live on Joy 99.7 FM, Love FM in Kumasi, and over a dozen affiliate stations across the country on the internet, and also on DSTV channel 241. And this morning, my guest, Abdul Malik Kwekubaku, editor-in-chief of the New Crusading Guide, the birthday man, who surprisingly, coincidentally, celebrates his birthday with his own other diabolical guy, Anas Armeyao Anas. In the studio also this morning is Kofi Bentel, private legal practitioner and vice president of Imani, and John Abdullahi Junapo is MP Yape Kusogu and member Finance, Mines and Energy Committees of Parliament. Also here is my very good friend Martin Pebu. He is a lawyer and rights activist. The man we have to thank for the no non-bailable matters in this country anymore. He's the reason why there is no case in Ghana now that is labeled as non-bailable. Every case is subject to bail. Now, I will take you straight away to Koforidua. Sorry, you've been expecting my take. We'll go to Koforidua this morning and speak to Kojo Yangsen. We'll speak to Gifty Ando-Apea, all of whom are standing by. We have a solid team there that will bring you the happenings in Koforidua. And you know what is happening there? The NPP's Delegates Conference. Hello, Kojo.
Samson, this is Gifty. And so we're here at the Koforidua Technical University where 9 positions are up for grabs, 42 persons contesting candidates. We did the same in Tamale in 2014. I mean, at the end of the day, we saw how it went. Not all of the elected executive were able to last. What will be the story of this particular team? That and updating our viewers and listeners are what we're here for. And like you said, it's a solid team. I'm here myself, Samson. Kojo Yangsen is here with me. Our presidential affairs correspondent, Elton Bobe, is here. Daniel Dazi is here. And we're going to bring you live updates now. Now, let me start by telling you this, Samson. Now, what's been going on here is a mantra of maintain the winning team versus time muscle. To wit, it's our time. Who will be the winner at the end of the day? And that is where we get into the dynamics of the persons who are on the list. Kojo is going to take us through how the day will look like here. Kojo, over to you now.
Thank you, Gifty. And there's quite a lot coming up. It's an event that many people have waited 4 years to experience. And this is how it's going to go. There will be 2 parts to today's activities. Part 1 will be the speeches and the addresses and the remarks. And of course, we will be hearing from the national chairman. There'll be a report from the general secretary, and then a statement of accounts from the national treasurer. We'll also hear from the leader of the parliamentary group. There'll be a statement from the former president, John Ajikun Kufuor, and an address by His Excellency President Akufo-Addo. Let's not forget, we'll also be hearing goodwill messages from other political parties, and for many, that is the highlight of part 1 of today's activities. We'll be looking out for those opportunities that other parties will take to slip in their own messages to the nation through this platform. Part 2 of today will be the affairs of the conference being handed over to the National Elections Committee. They will then conduct this internal election under the supervision of the Electoral Commission of Ghana. The EC will be here to supervise activities. Now, of course, this will continue until very late in the night. We have several delegates. They were expecting quite a large chunk of the National Electoral College to be participating today, with hundreds of delegates from each region, as well as interest groups like the women's groups and so forth, all represented here. We'll be voting across 12 separate polling stations, which will be set up here at the Koforidua Technical University. Now, I can tell you Station 1 will be for Central Region. The constituency executives and the regional executives will be participating. 408 delegates will be voting there. Founding members will also be voting, 36 delegates. Council of Elders will be voting at this polling station as well, 15 delegates from there. And the Council of Patrons, another 15. Station 2 will be for the Ashanti region. We're expecting 816 delegates to vote there. Station 3, Brongahafu region, 510 delegates. And there will be external branch executives, about 252 delegates also voting at Station 3. Station 4 will be for the Eastern Regional and Constituency executives. 578 delegates will be participating there. TESCON will be voting at Station 4 as well. 189 delegates from TESCON. Station 5 will be for the Greater Accra region, and constituency executives will be voted for there as well. 578 delegates participating. Station 6 is for the Northern region, 544 delegates. Station 7, Upper East region, there will be 272 delegates there. Upper West regional and constituency executives will also make up 204 delegates voting for them. And all the MMDCEs will be voting there as well, 216 delegates represented. Station 8 will be for the voter, regional and constituency executives, 459 delegates participating. All MPs will also be represented there at this Station 8, 169 delegates for the MPs. Station 9, Western Regional and Constituency executives will be chosen there, 459 delegates. All non-MP ministers and deputy ministers will make up 39 delegates also voting at this station. Station 10 is for the youth wing, 855 delegates voting there. Station 11, the women's wing, 890 delegates. And finally, Station 12, Nasara will be voting there with 804 delegates. In all, about 6,000 delegates are expected to grace this conference today.
And so you heard Kojo with the details of how the day is going to look like here today. It's going to be certainly an interesting electoral showdown. We saw what happened in 2014. Now, always, it's been traditional that the chairmanship position has always been the highlight for the elections. At this time, we're looking at Freddie Blay, who is incumbent, acting, by the way, who is slugging it out against Stephen Ntim and Dr. Richard Amwaku-Boateng. You know the controversies that have come up, Kojo. Those are going to certainly be a highlight of this particular election. Then there appears to be one of the tight race is going to be between the contestants for the youth organizer position. There you have Henry Nana Boakye, Nana B, as you know. You have Kamaldeen Abdullahi, who is moving from Nasarawa coordinator, looking to get into the youth organizer position. And then you have one Dominic, who, I mean, I've heard his name among a lot of the grassroots here. You may not hear of him in the It's going to be a tight race up there. Now, the theme for today, what they're standing on, to organize their elections, building a stronger party, delivering prosperity to Ghanaians. Perhaps the president will help us know. I mean, he will provide account for their stewardship for the past, well, they've been in power. So these are some of the highlights that today we're going to at the Koforidua Technical University. Kojo, I am not sure about your expectations. Do you have any expectations, by the way?
Well, today I think is going to be a revelation of who these delegates still listen to. Right. Okay, the president may, in some people's view, have slipped in a subliminal message there by saying, maintain the gains. Okay, and of course, for this party, the gains is power, right? They won power in the last election. And so when the president says maintain the gains, the interpretations are going to be, well, perhaps skewed more into the direction of keep the winning team. But I wonder whether the delegates, these 6,000 delegates, are going to be representative of that 95% that selected the president in the Congress that chose him as their flag bearer. Let's see whether indeed they still have the attention of the president, and whether they are going to make choices based on this maintain the gains.
Well, the maintain the gains doesn't necessarily mean that maintain the acting executive.
That's true. The president was very, very careful not to make such a categorical statement. But I'm talking about how these delegates are going to interpret what the president has said. And that is really what today's elections are going to reveal ultimately. And of course, don't forget, for the chairmanship race, we had someone who stepped down not so long ago, Alaji Short. Okay, and of course, long before he stepped down, there was a certain expectation, a certain rumor. I don't want to give it any credence, but those who know, right?
Well,
whether or not.
One of the things, Kojo, that has come up as far as and we'll be wrapping up pretty soon, that has come up with the chairmanship position. You know, there were pictures of money with photos of these aspirants going around on social media. Well, we've been talking to a few people around here. They've told us that it's not true. You are, I mean, the final judge, by the way. You listening or watching, you're the final judge. But it's been all over. Not many people are talking about it. In the meantime, let me tell you that delegates have been arriving since yesterday. A lot of them are here already. The program is supposed to start at 10. So hopefully they will stick to time and start exactly at 10. We are here to bring you all the updates, the analysis, the interviews. A lot of the familiar faces have already started coming in, and we've been talking to some of them already. We'll bring you those interviews, and we'll bring you, like I said, it's a solid team. And JoyNews, we're here to deliver, as always.
That's right. It won't get deeper than how we do it here, so stay with us.
Right, so Kojo Yankson and Gifty Ando appear there, but as I told you earlier, there's a solid team there in Koforidua that will be keeping you up to speed with the developments there at the NPP conference that is ongoing there. The conference will be in two parts. There will be the speeches where statements will be taken from the national chairman, acting report from the general secretary. That's also acting statement of account from the national treasurer, statement from the leader of the parliamentary group, statement from former President John Ejekum Kufuor, and addressed by His Excellency the President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. Then in part two, will be the affairs of the conference that shall be handed over to the National Elections Committee, which shall conduct the internal elections under the supervision of the Crisis Electoral Commission. Well, members of the Electoral Commission are telling us that they are not in crisis. How ostrich attitude. We'll see how we deal with those, because the EC can't form a quorum. It can't form a quorum. And you say you don't have a crisis, Jakwasu will ask you those questions in good course. Right. So let's start with your brief comments about the NPP. And my introduction, I just acknowledge the fact that Freddie Blaze buses have arrived. I am not sure whether he bussed the 6,000 delegates to Koforidua and whether he's been successful at busing their minds into the ballot boxes against Stephen Intim, who has been at this for how many times now? This has been his fifth attempt, is it? Or fifth election in the NPP. He's been so unfortunate, but he feels that this is his time. Right. So loyalty versus what? Buses. Right. So, how do you see what is going on in Koforidua?
Right. So, I always see the big picture.
Okay.
And for me, I think they should keep that in perspective. What is going on in Koforidua is the heart of our democracy. You see young people coming through. You see the older ones trying to get into a certain position. Now, what is going on in Koforidua can, or I think will, determine the path that our nation takes. How credible it is affects us. Okay, the values that the people take there affect us. So the big picture of what is going on in Koforidua, and for that matter, what happens in all political party primaries, is very important to me, because this is what we fought for. This is what we've gotten. We should, however, seek to refine it over time. Seek to make sure that it's their private process, but I'm seeing the effect of the nation. So you talk about buses, for instance. You like it or not, even if you took the money out of his pocket, one day there will be a certain effect of that action on the nation, which is why some people have lost on political party financing.
Right.
Okay. So for me, first, I look at the big picture of what is going on there, and I'm very happy. These are the things that make us happy as Ghanaians. I wish them well. I hope they go through it peacefully, and I hope even the losers are gracious about it. They should stick to their commitments. They should stick to the things they believe in, okay, even their ideology. Too many times under these kinds of pressures, people just go down to the cash and that's the end of it. So I wish them well. We hope that by tomorrow we'll get a nice list of fresh MPP executives who will deliver one district, one factory, support the government to achieve all the things that is promised the rest of Ghanaians. And we won't hear any negative news, whether physical or otherwise. I think we'll wait to commend them. And they should also keep note that there will be accountability at the end of the day over this one too, even though it's their private business.
Very interesting. But what has become really topical about the chairmanship race has been the buses issue.
Yes.
Where do you stand? What will be your commentary about the buses issue? People say this is clear vote buying and this is wrong. You know, anti-corruption campaigners are speaking against it. As we speak, the group known as the Coalition for Social Justice have filed a petition. They filed it on the 6th of July, filed a petition at the Commission for Human Rights and Administrative Justice, and they are asking a number of questions about the source of funding and Freddie Blay's source of wealth.
Look, the questions arising out of that action are entirely legitimate. But it's also true that Freddie Blay breaks no law and has not committed any wrong by what he's done. But what we need to know is this: politicians, or generally people, will always push the limit of what is allowed. And that's what Freddie Blay has done. Now, this is why some people now start making laws. Because I said just now that whether we like it or not, these things will have an effect on the nation. You pay one way or the other. So first point, Freddie Blay has done nothing wrong. But he's just tested the limits of our tolerance as far as political party financing is concerned. Now, that argument or that issue is going to blow up all kinds of ways. People are going to start talking about, you know, the state funding political parties, which I'll never agree to. Okay? People are going to talk about capping political party finances. People are going to talk about all kinds of things. Now, Citizen Ghana last year went to court on this matter. And we said that the heart of this matter, or dealing with this matter,
is the case over?
We won.
Right, I remember, yes.
Yes, we won that case. But you see, two things. One, there's so much you can do. And then two, the issues of the EC started around that time. But what we said was that the heart of this issue will be dealt with if the EC insists on political parties filing their accounts or not participating in the next election.
Okay.
And when they file their accounts, we challenged the EC to publish it. They said they will not, and so we sued. And the court ruled in our favor that they should give us all the political party accounts.
Okay.
You know, out of so many reasons, we have not pursued it. But if we got those accounts, we will serialize them. So everybody knows how they are financed. Then we'll get to know what the details are. Of course, I personally don't expect that they will give us true accounts.
Okay.
But that's where the start is going to be. Imagine that is done. Then we will start seeing the true picture of who is financing political parties. And that is where we will start to try and solve the problem, whether by legislation or some other means.
Okay.
But you see, that's how you build a country.
In a minute to wrap up, what will you say about those critics who say even the party itself should not be endorsing what Freddie Blay is doing at a time when we are looking for ambulances? That you should be saying that rather, this is where you should channel your efforts to assist the state.
Look, that's a moral argument. And the moral argument has its place. Because whether you like it or not, when people go to the polls, human beings pretend to be rational, but we are all emotional more than we are rational. So that moral argument has its place. But the issue is this: people will always do what they are allowed to do. What we should be advising the political parties, both MPP and NDC, is that this is not good for you. So that moral, if you have 55 ambulances in a country and people die just because they didn't get first aid, and you do some of these things, you can say you have a right to do it. But there will be questions asked of you.
The former vice president collapses and is put in the bucket of
I didn't want to go into that detail, but yes, it's a serious thing, especially when it happened on a military facility, a place where things must be very much in proper shape. Now, here is somebody who was the #2 in this country.
Right.
What about ordinary people? So in the face of these things, if you do what is going on now, you'll be questioned.
Okay.
It's a moral argument, but it has its place.
Right.
So we all should sit down.
Okay, thank you, John.
Well, first of all, let me wish the MPP well in their Delegates conference. Everything appeared to have been moving smoothly. It appeared that the contest and the heat was actually on the youth organizer side. Then all of a sudden, this issue of bias is coming, and it makes the whole thing murkier. What is wrong is wrong. In life, you just don't live according to law. You just don't live because this is legal and that is not legal. We'll be coming to some of the issues. You remember the Preventive Detection Act or whatever, Nkrumah? He went to Parliament. Today we criticize that. And so if something is wrong, let's be bold, let's be fair, and say that it's wrong. You have two main contenders in Tim and Blay. Mr. Blay's message to the delegates is simple.
That's Professor Mwakomba.
Well, but you can tell. That's why he zeroed down on NDC and NPP. There are other political parties, but we all know where the heat is. Blay's promise to the delegates was that, look, I'm procuring 275 buses for you.
Each constituency.
Each constituency. One bus. First of all, the question is, where is he getting the money? And don't forget, he's a public figure. He's not a private figure. He's the chairman of the Ghana National Petroleum Corporation.
The coalition that was petitioning Shraj over the declaration of his assets.
Very good.
Have raised that issue.
I'm coming there. He's enjoined to declare his assets when he left Parliament. And so these are genuine, important issues that we ought to concentrate on. Now, I've listened to his spokesperson. He says that, look, he is contracting a loan amount of about $11.7 million from Universal Merchant Bank. And that upon procuring these buses, even after promising the constituencies that he was going to deliver the buses to them, he has now come to realize that the constituencies cannot manage the buses. So the MPP, a political party, which is in government, is going to sign an agreement with the State Transport Corporation, which is a government entity, to manage those buses on behalf of that political party and make monthly payments to the constituencies. I find that problematic. Something I find that problematic. In the financial sector, banks have what we call a single obligor limit in terms of their exposure. And so if Universal Merchant Bank can find one person credit worthy and advance close to $12 million to that person to procure buses, I think that the Bank of Ghana must get into this. And I think that the Universal Merchant Bank must come out and clarify this issue.
We're told it's a good business model.
Because
they are providing the funding for it. He has provided a deposit of how many? Is it $3 million? And that when the buses come in, they will be in the name of the bank. As and when the debts are paid off, then they become their own. They own it. And with STC, unless you don't know, they have an arrangement that is already there. People, private individuals, give their buses to STC to run.
I'm saying that I have a problem with a party in government procuring 275 buses.
It's not a party. The party didn't procure.
Listen to the General Secretary. Please, if you want Google, the General Secretary says that Freddie Blay should not appropriate that. And that makes it murkier. That is a party arrangement. And the General Secretary said that he witnessed the agreement because it's a party arrangement. Freddie Blay says that he is the one doing it. So even in terms of transparency and honesty, there's a major problem there. You cannot even determine precisely what they intend doing. And I'm saying that Universal Merchant Bank must clear the air. We have customers there. They have their deposits there. We've seen banks going down and people losing their monies. The bank should clarify the issues so that we settle the financial sector. Because it's important. The financial sector does not thrive on noise.
Okay.
We want some clarity there, and let's get these things right. Because we all know political parties. Something. If today somebody comes to tell you that Freddie Blay is raised $11.7 million, it will raise your hair. And these are legitimate concerns, and Ghanaians have legitimate concerns. Let's begin to probe these issues. Let's settle the matter, and let's deal with them. But I don't think that it is tidy.
Okay.
I don't think that it is proper. I don't think that would be a good message to tell delegates that I'm procuring 275 buses for you and all that. I don't think it's proper. And already, Stephen Ntim is crying foul. As I said, this was a very good process. It was going very well until this issue came in. But that is the MPP for you.
All right.
I'm not surprised.
What are your projections? Blay will win, Samia Wuku will win, Nana B will win,
My
John
analysis,
Boydu will win.
about a month ago was that Blay and Intim were neck and neck.
Okay.
But with the infusion and the introduction of these buses, from what I'm getting from the ground, it is obvious that there's a deliberate attempt to outsmart Intim. And I will not be surprised if Intim is defeated because of these buses.
Okay.
The buses appear to be tilting the whole game in favor of Blay.
Yes, Koko.
Well. See, I have to go
You've
back
already
to this
voted for Nana B, right?
Yes, I have.
Okay.
As an outsider, of
No,
course.
I mean voted as in
Family
You see, the mischief maker. Classic mischief.
Secret clarity.
Senior delegate.
Before I make my comments, I
Okay.
want to lay a basis. And this is a string of suspicions, however numerous and however grave, can never be multiplied together to produce proof of guilt. This was by Chief Justice Akokosa during the Kulungugu bomb blast trial. December 9th, December 9th, 1963.
The state versus Ali.
Archery, and was
So-
state versus archery.
The concerns being raised may be legitimate and need to be investigated. I don't have a problem with it. But when I listen carefully to some of the people who are communicating the concerns, I realize the concerns are driven by suspicions. And that worries me. But well, this is a democracy. We've created a space for that. And that's why we have institutions and authorities that will be called upon to look at those things. See, people, and I'll be honest, the communication from Freddie Blay and the party, or both, has been problematic in terms of its trajectory. It took some time for exactly what is going on to crystallize. So that's part of the problem they must encounter. But the question is, has there been a violation of any statute or any law as we speak? Has anybody pointed to any of those things? For instance, my brother Jinapo was making a case on the STC thing, but you corrected him because I checked. The STC buses you see out there, about 15–20% do not belong to them, belongs to other persons. So there's a business format already that they engage in. Even I'm told VIP as well too.
I know because I've dealt with a client who's got his buses there.
But that's not what I said.
Well, it was implied, and that's why he gave you the answer he gave you. But beyond here, beyond this table, out there, a lot of people have questioned it. So there's the need to address the issue. So even if you didn't mean that, we are addressing the issue here.
But is it not legitimate still to ask the questioning as Evans Mensah asked Richard Nyama? Can the NDC today decide to procure same number of buses or in that quantity and say STC take care of them for us?
Has the NDC attempted that?
Sorry.
You are inviting me to interrogate an hypothesis. Has the NDC done that and they've been refused so that you can talk of discrimination or selectivity? That's a hypothetical situation.
Can they contemplate that possibility in the first place?
Who,
Sorry,
NDC?
yes.
Yeah, but if they
It's an
haven't,
existing business model.
yeah. So
yes,
I'm saying the
answer is
question
yes.
is completely inappropriate. It has no foundation. If the NDC could try and let them be rejected, then there will be an issue of discrimination and selectivity. But you haven't tried it. So how do I interrogate this hypothesis? I think it's unfair to do so in order to try and find a connection to say that the MPP is being favored because
Where
it's a
people
rule.
are bringing or renting only one bus, 2 buses, 3 buses to the STC, that may be reasonable. But how do you come to the conclusion that the STC is capable of absorbing 275 buses from you, one go?
It's still hypothesis. The STC has not told us they are incapable of doing so.
Okay.
And again, I'm just going to be very frank on all these things. My own checks, as at yesterday, show that there is no written agreement,
there's no agreement
now. There was an intention expressed to STC that we are expecting these buses to come in, and if they came, we would come to you and structure up an agreement, and then you manage it for us. So as we speak, my own checks, independent checks yesterday, indicated that they have not entered into any formal agreement as at now.
Again, can you contemplate the possibility of Nana Acomia telling the MPP in the face that we can't accommodate your buses?
But what are we doing to ourselves? If Acomia, the MPP goes there and Acomia says we can't do it for whatever reasons, finish. And STC is not an obligation.
This is business for the party.
No, but the political party's law is here. Tell me, point to any section that says the party can't do that. What the party cannot do is here. It's written here. You must declare your assets. You must declare expenditure. You must returns on your income and all those. It's here. Especially section 13, section 21. That is declaration of assets and expenditure by political parties. If the buses are owned by the party, I expect that they will include it in their assets declaration. Right. If not, they violated section 13. Now, if it comes to returns and accounts of political parties, whatever revenue, because STC takes, by the format you gave, they take some of their money and give what is appropriate to the other group. Right. So returns and accounts of political parties, if they get any revenue from there, income or whatever, and they don't declare, to UC.
I don't think that is the question that is being asked.
Yes.
It's about, for example, what an invidious position Acomia is put in, that he cannot say no. Even
why do you say he cannot say no?
He didn't have room for them.
No, why are you speculating? This is speculative. It is speculative.
Which is allowed in journalism.
No, but then it's not a conclusion. You are beginning from a certain premise and drawing a wrong conclusion.
Okay.
That's the point I'm making. It's speculative.
All right. All right.
So we have to be dealing with the substance of the issue. I'm saying that one, their own communication was problematic. It created some challenge for them. Over a period, I think it's getting clearer and clearer. There still may be some misty areas they have to clear.
Okay, help us briefly on that. What is the clarity we now have?
What I hear the party now saying, various spokespersons saying, that it appears the party is committed to this project because the General Secretary is even a signatory to the banking, the financial arrangements and things. The chairman is involved. I'm told in March was when this was discussed.
So it's a party initiative.
It is more and more a party initiative. That's what I have found out going forward. The timing, you see, is the communication
so
of
Freddie
this.
Blair has been telling lies.
Well, you may call it lies. I don't want to use the word lies. I think perhaps somebody wanted to, he might have sought to capitalize on it for his electoral fortunes. And that's where the question of timing comes in. And people then interpret that to mean vote
So
by.
do it properly, because if something is done under your leadership, you can take credit for it.
Yes, so communication.
So why not do it that way?
No,
but
but
say I'm procuring buses.
That's why I said communication.
Okay.
It may have come with a certain deficit in terms of honesty,
Okay.
in terms of broad communication thing. It may. But since the party now, have you heard the party issue a disclaimer?
No.
Yes. Why should they do so when they are part of it now?
Okay.
They are. That's what it is. Now, the issue of investigation, I'm all for it.
Okay.
I understand why, even though I think it's unfair for people. I saw one NDC, I think we should mention the names. My friend Ablako Okujoto yesterday was talking of a GMPC program that had been brought to Parliament and the kind of expenditure outlay there, and was trying to link it to the call for investigations. I thought that was unfair and unjust. Parliament is seized with that document. Parliament can subject that document to its own scrutiny and investigate the expenditure patterns and everything, distinct from whatever agency is invited to investigate Freddie Blair's and the MPP's purchase of buses. The bank, you are talking of a bank, I don't understand financial things, but the impression I get from what John was saying is that the bank itself may be violating a certain banking principle or policy for entering into that's something of an overexposure of a kind, you know. Well, that can be subjected to scrutiny by the central bank, considering what has happened in recent times. But so far, not enough evidence of violation of any statute or any law has been brought forward. All what we are being invited to deal with is suspicions.
Okay, thank you. So who is winning?
Winning what?
Chairmanship.
Season of predictions.
Intim is a very nice person. He's a gentleman. Excellent. Gentleman's gentleman.
Conflict of interest situation.
Right.
But you see, you don't expect me, even though I'm not NPP, to
Is that
sit
conflict
here.
of interest because you were the editor of the Daily Guide?
Freddie Blay is a great friend of mine.
Right.
Absolute. In fact, we are virtually family. I went to prison with him. Don't forget that. So I'll be so unfair to him, so dishonest, if I couldn't say, oh, let Freddie win. Freddie is my choice. I don't belong to the party.
You were
so
not exactly happy when he was flirting with the NPP.
I opposed this cross-carpeting.
crossing.
I did, and I did so publicly, and I still disagree. But that's his choice,
Okay.
and he's done good, very good for himself. He went in there, he competed, he became first vice chairman, became acting national chairman, and he's out there. I understood some of the dynamics in CPP that made him move.
Okay.
But I think he should have stayed with the CPP. That's my own view.
All right.
Yeah.
All right.
Samia
supposed to
Oku,
be-
obvious choice for,
Samia
is it
Oku's
the-
obvious.
for
Okay.
the national. I'll be surprised if he loses. Then people would
I
have
thought
done a lot
you
of
have done that already.
yes.
Okay.
And people would have done a lot
yeah.
of damage to themselves if they don't elect Samia Oku. John Buidu's obvious choice.
Okay.
Yes.
So is what's the graphic published about what the presidents, want? Retain the winning team.
Well,
Retain,
I'll
sustain.
tell you something. I
Retain and
won't be
sustain.
surprised if the president was backing Freddie Blay. There was the earlier talk of a large shot. I told people that that's not sustainable.
Okay.
I won't be surprised at all. The president hasn't told me that.
All right.
I'm only saying I won't be surprised
Okay.
if his choice is Freddie Blay.
All right.
I haven't said he told me anything.
Okay, thank you. Now, Martin, if you can start from this note, where there are those who are saying that voting for Freddie Blay is telling the delegates that loyalty does not pay in this party. You can stay in it for as long as you want and die for it. Someone may show up tomorrow and that person immediately can be made a first vice chairperson, will be made an acting chairman, and eventually endorsed as the chairman.
Yeah, definitely. That's what it is. Yes, because until this situation, I thought generally it was known that the party rewards loyalty. So ordinarily,
Just as in the case of Nana Akufo-Addo.
exactly. So one would have thought that Mr. Intim should win this one hands down. To be candid, I've been surprised that Freddie Blay has kept the contest going till this point. I thought from the beginning that it was just going to be a one-horse race, that Mr. Intim was going to get it hands down because he's been at it for so long, just as Nana from 98. Yeah, or even before that. Yes. Exactly. And you see how the delegates did it. So using by the same logic, okay, by parity of reasoning, I would have expected that Mr. Intim should win. But these are political matters. There's a lot of dynamic, some dynamics in it.
Can you imagine, for want of a better word, the violence with which Dan Boche reacted to Kojo Mpieni, the former chief of staff,
Exactly.
when he said Blay is not loyal, Blay is not known, is alien to the party and doesn't deserve the position.
Exactly. Yes, I heard it on Joy.
Was that?
Yes.
How sustainable was that? How did he become first vice chairman? Was he imposed?
No, by voting.
By voting.
Election.
And the delegates didn't know
Yes, but see,
that he
as
had a
for that
loyalty
one,
deficit.
Uncle,
Please.
definitely. You see, when it comes to the vice position, I don't think that convention is so entrenched.
But he was acting chairman, chaired the National Council all this time.
Yeah, because
And you are
my
talking
client
loyalty
Akufo was
deficit at this
bundled
stage?
out. You see, so that's why he was
What did
acting.
you say?
person you
Yes,
pick
my
in a
client
time of crisis.
was bundled out. You see.
Martin, the person you pick in a time of crisis
Yes.
to lead you through a very serious challenge like what Nana Akufo-Addo went through must be your best bet.
No,
So for me,
you know
in
how
ordinary
counter
times,
it.
it's okay to pick an ordinary person, but to pick that man at that time meant you needed the very best, and without
And you
utmost
didn't look at
loyalty,
loyalty then.
so that
Councillor,
argument
that's
absolutely won't work.
No, that's very debatable. Let me tell you, look, the
In
last
crisis.
election, it was 8 years. The cycle, it was time. We're just tired of the NDC. That's how come we voted against them. I don't think, look, the party was so much in disarray. I wouldn't say that it was the magical powers of Blay. It was just
MPP's
time.
situation
It was
at
just
the
time. It was time for change.
But I'm
Just
not
like
sure we
situation, just like in 8 years,
precarious.
the rate at which we are going, just wait, in 8 years you will see. We will definitely have to change it. We will change. Well, anyway, but those of us in the middle, we are used to 8 years.
Now let's talk about a bit about the buses and maybe bring your legal prowess to bear. Where like this coalition, you know, is concerned that he's able to supply $3 million.
Yeah.
I mean, we have known Freddie Blay.
Yes.
He's not a man of being, you know, substance, so to speak. He's run one of the most reputable newspapers. I mean, second largest in circulation after the Daily.
The private press
Graphic.
is the first.
Oh,
yes.
Okay.
After the Daily Graphic, for how many years now? You don't expect that he can bring $3 million to put down for buses, and that we're told that he personally guaranteed the 11 point what million dollars for the facility.
Wow, Sam, that's a very difficult question for a lawyer. You know, to be candid, I'm not in a position to vouch. Because you see, I haven't seen the numbers. I haven't seen how well the business is done. But you see, so because of that, I'll be very careful to say that based upon having run a successful business, ipso facto, he can raise that money. No, that would be very tricky. Very, very, very tricky. No, I'll run away from it. What I should say is that, yes, well, he's done it. To be candid, my position on this matter is that on this particular one, the moral argument is very strong. Very, very, very strong. You see, just as you indicated earlier, and Council Kofi Bentley also indicated it. You see, because at this time that, you see, even we had our vice president dying on the military facility where there was no ambulance. So in one word, we don't even have a proper ambulance system in Ghana. And one person could raise that money for buses for a political party. You see, it brings some dissonance, okay? So it kind of creates a certain suspicion. And though this Uncle Kweku has brought out the court cases that show that suspicions do not prove guilt. But Kofi Benton made the earlier point, we are emotional beings, very, very emotional. So if we find that one private person can raise this money for this, then we are like, oh, what's happening? So it's even, in a sense, richer than the state. So to be candid, the moral argument holds sway on this matter. But people are not happy.
But if it's emotion,
yes.
It's emotion without the benefit of intellect.
Yes, but you know, it's the timing. It's the timing, actually. So you see that.
Yes, so we can interrogate it, but I can see vindication at the end of the day, because it's only suspicions that have been brought forward.
So as you mentioned, maybe the party's involvement should have been made known right from the start. It should have been. So it's a PR disaster. That's what it is.
To extent, yes.
Yes, it's a PR disaster.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just one minute.
Okay.
To an extent.
Right. So those who are petitioning Shraj about the declaration of assets and everything, they
should proceed.
The coalition, you support that?
It's good for our democracy. So what it's going to do is that it will teach the other parties a lesson that Ghanaians, there's a very strong wind of change, okay, blowing the country, the way citizens are engaging. Yeah. So it's a lesson to other parties.
Says we should be citizens and not spectators.
Exactly. So it's good.
Right.
Sure.
So,
just two quick
Martin Pebu endorses the Coalition for Social Justice, and everybody endorsed their petition to Shraj over Blaze assets and declaration. Yes, quickly, we are going for a break.
First of all, Delegates, their accounts will tell. Because Delegates or that company is distinct from the man Freddie Blay.
That's right.
He can only get dividends when they run their financial statements, declare profit, and decides to give in dividend. And that will be demonstrated. But the other issue of STC, see, if I am chief executive of STC.
But for your information, Delegate, that's a Western publication.
No, that's why I said the company.
No, Western
that's why I said the company. I knew what I was.
May not be the only business interest that Freddie
No problem. I'm saying we can
attachment.
determine that. We can determine that. Assuming I am chief executive of STC, and my wife goes to procure buses and brings them to me to run, I may not have breached any law, but people will raise questions. And I'm saying so because Nana Komia,
my wife,
is let me just let me land.
I just want
Nana Komia was the director of communications for the MPP.
Yes.
Today, as I speak to you, he is going to vote at the party's congress.
Yes.
He is a member of the MPP. Yeah. I am sure that he is determined to ensure that the MPP wins. I'm saying that I find everything problematic with such a person going into an agreement with his own political party
Is
to
he the
manage
one
their
going to the
buses.
agreement? Or
He
is
is the
the
chief
STC?
executive.
Yeah, but
He's not STC.
He is the chief executive.
But he is not
He
STC.
takes executive decisions on
STC
behalf
has an
of the
existing
company.
business
Go and
model.
look at his
What's wrong if it's going
responsibility.
into
It's an
agreement?
existing
There's an
business
agreement
model.
that
Yeah,
is
there's a
not
board.
illegal.
Thank you.
It's an
What's wrong
I am
with that?
saying
business model.
that I find everything problematic.
No, my question
Legally
is,
or morally?
what is it wrong? What is wrong?
Maybe if you
I'm
go
looking
going
at it
into
from an ethical
agreement
point
that
of
is
view.
not illegal. Okay,
I am
ethical.
looking at it from an ethical point of view.
Okay.
And I see a potential conflict of interest arriving from an active political member who is chief executive of STC, going to run buses belonging to his political party to use those funds to fund constituency executives in his constituencies at party level to win elections. I find everything problematic
But you
with
know,
that.
under our law, conflict when it's disclosed under the Companies Act, you
Yeah.
can go on.
All right.
So
Don't just go there.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. We take a quick break here. This is Newsfile. It's your most
It will come to
authoritative
catch
news
him one
analysis
day.
We won't do
show.
that.
My guests
We will
are
not do
Baku
that.
Martin,
We will
Pebu
not do
John,
that.
Jinapo, and Kofi Bento.
sure about
We'll be
that.
right back. And when we return, we go to the presidency, Parliament, Supreme Court, and the presidency again to the Chief Justice and her committee. We'll be right back.